the one thing that could have changed the NBA Cup was LeBron James taking it seriously last year. Or like even just if he came out and said if he came out and even gave like a quote, people were like, "Oh, these players wouldn't have celebrated these wins like Kobe and Jordan wouldn't have." I was like, "Man, both of them would have."
Welcome back to Good Morning Let's Basketball. Today, I'm joined by Daniel and Mick. We welcome a special guest, Mick Hoops, a powerhouse in the NBA community and Ireland's national 2K20 champion with multiple YouTube channels and a combined audience of over 350,000 subscribers. Mick Hoops has become a valued name in the NBA and gaming community. From Ireland, his content blends professional insights and opinions, giving fans their fix of NBA, WNBA, and 2K content. Mick, welcome to the show.
How are you guys? I can't believe you used the NBA 2K Ireland champ, 2K20 Irish champion as part of that, but I'll take it. I'll
Yeah,
take it. I guess I was that.
yeah. I mean, if you want to go in, plug your channels and what you do.
Yeah, so I used to be a 2K YouTuber. I used to be DBG 2K YouTuber and also B-Ball Daily. Um, some of your viewers might have come across a video. Heck, some of you guys might have come across that video. Like, I was kind of the pioneer of the "Where Are They Now" based on the old high school viral things. I had a couple of like videos hit 5, 6 million views back in the day on B-Ball Daily. It was like back these 7 or 8 years ago, it was like Corzemba was one, Jimmy High Rollers was two, would have been me like on hot on their tails in basketball content. 2K was kind of my thing, and then when 2K went bad, I just started making WNBA content during the summer, and when that kind of dried up, started making NBA content. So then I'm here now.
So, with WNBA content, have you and growing fans, have you seen like I just as a perspective because we haven't really touched into WNBA, and I was kind of curious, like, have you seen like a growing on that is on YouTube as well, like with your videos?
I mean, I went from 0 subscribers in June to 40,000 subscribers and 25 million views by December. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
There's
that's
people
awesome.
it's
watching
kind
for
of
sure.
boomed. It's kind of boomed.
Do you think that's all just because of I mean, there's been a couple of like WNBA players I feel like that have elevated everyone's attention on the game or do you think there's something specific that really led to it?
I mean, it's Caitlin Clark. Like we,
Yeah,
there's no point. There's
yeah.
no point trying to pretend that it's not like there's other players that have had some impact. Like to say that the likes of Angel Reese and stuff had no impact is wrong. But like, no, it's Caitlin Clark. There isn't a WNBA boom without Caitlin Clark. There's
Yeah.
no yeah. There's no Mick Talks Hoops or Mick Hoops without Caitlin Clark. So
Okay.
What made you shift off of 2K? I know you said it went
um
bad and that's obvious, but
yeah. Like I played the My Team game mode,
okay.
which just became a casino. Like it stopped being about the NBA, it stopped being about basketball, and it just became about gambling. So I was like really I'm really against gambling. Like I refuse on any of my channels to promote gambling, refuse to do any advertisements on it. So then when the entire game that I was playing just became gambling, I was like, I just can't do this anymore.
Yeah. I mean the price of even just like 2K itself has gone up so much. Like I play a lot of like my career and it's just ridiculous that every year you have to spend over 100 and something dollars to make your player somewhat right. Because I definitely skip a little bit. I don't start at the 60 overall thing for sure.
Yeah, like it's to be honest, like I could rant for 10 hours about how bad 2K is just as a whole. So we should probably leave that there
Yeah.
to make an NBA
Uh,
podcast. But yeah, just know that I think everyone feels the same way about 2K now. Like it's just they priced everyone out.
for
Yeah.
sure. But I wanted to ask you, so like what got you into basketball?
So I would have played quite a lot when I was young. Like I played almost every sport. Like I was a pretty decent tennis player. Just like Irish sports, Gaelic football and hurling was pretty decent then. Was a good enough track athlete that I was almost coming over to States for prep school, hopefully college for like multi events, like to be a decathlete. And I just loved basketball, to be honest. It was my favorite sport. Would have played for my national team when I was like 15, 16, and then like 18, 19 would have played like in the top league in Ireland for a couple of years. And then YouTube took over. Like there's very little, if any, money to be made in Irish basketball, so just kind of dropped down to a couple of leagues to the amateur level and played at an okay level um amateur wise in Ireland for a couple of years, and then YouTube continued to take over, and at the minute I'm coaching a team. I'm the assistant coach for a team in the second tier in Ireland, which is technically a pro, technically coaching a pro team, but like not all of our guys are pros in the second tier. So yeah, it's kind of basketball's kind of been the main hobby of my life, and the fact that I've basketball's kind of been my job for the last decade, it's kind of got me more into basketball really than anything else.
I definitely wanted to ask like what's the scene like over there, in Ireland for basketball? I mean, have you been in the States? Have you seen like competitiveness of the kids that are the same age as kids in Ireland, doing the same things?
Yeah, I think there are genuinely, I mean there's a hell of a lot more players playing in America. America produces better athletes. And I think the standard of coaching here is horrific. We don't produce the athletes, and it's the reason why there are very few good unathletic Americans, whereas most of the good non-athletes aren't from America in the NBA because of the coaching styles. Like we coach a similar style to America, but we don't have the athletes that America have.
Hmm.
Rather than coaching like a Serbia do or a things other countries do, and like basketball is just kind of like a tertiary sport in Ireland. A few good players coming through now. Like we've got CJ Fulton from Charleston, who's like, I think he might for a third year straight be leading D1 in assist to turnover ratio with like 6.5 assists a game. Couple of good, couple of like we had one or two five stars that just never panned out, and like in our top league, actually Seventh Woods played here last year.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Yeah. So do you think like is there potential for more play? Because we were looking up, I think just some names of like Irish NBA players and not too many names come up. So like do you think that there's a future potential for more people to wanna play basketball in Ireland?
Yeah, like you just never know. Like there was like if you ever look up like Aiden Agayon, he was a five-star recruit, went to Louisville, just didn't work out, but like he's back playing. Like I coached against him like
Okay.
a month ago, and I'm coaching against him next weekend. And it's just the level for the NBA. People don't realize how hard the NBA is to make. Like there are five stars that just don't pan out in college, maybe make the wrong choice in where they go in college, and then suddenly they're in Ireland playing in our pro league. Like it's a lot of hard work. Like obviously the NBA is a lot of hard work. It's a lot of skill. It's a lot of luck the whole way. Like it is the hardest sports league in the world to make. So for Ireland to get an NBA player, it'll just be luck, I'd say.
Yeah, I gotcha. That's
Yeah, I
that
mean,
that is crazy. It goes along with that phrase, Victor, you might have to help me out with it, but like the last guy on an NBA roster is closer to LeBron James than we are to them. And like
yeah,
we talk
Nebraska
about
over
that
here.
in length of just how big the drop off is from us to them.
Unless it's Bronny.
Yeah. Yeah. Just
Um,
dropped 30 in a G League game. Personally hoping he has some time to develop.
Did you
But he
watch how they were guarding him in that game?
not really, no, honestly.
They went, in fairness, he got hot, but they went under every screen.
Yeah.
They were leaving him open and he just hit his shots. But
Yeah.
like they are every time that he's shooting, he's averaging 20 points over his last three games. It's like, well, yeah, he had like a 5 of 16 game the game before, and then he had a 6 of 20 game after that. And then he shot 23 times, but in fairness, he got hot in one game. But it's like, if you
Yeah.
take away that one game where he got hot, he's still shooting like 21% from the field.
He's an interesting case to me, just because that first game that I saw, like where he came in, like he obviously looked uncomfortable, and I'm talking about like when he came in with his dad. But even just like around that time, like he just looks very uncomfortable. I'm just hoping that he has a little bit of time to develop, because it seems like a lot of the coverages that they send to him like are geared towards, all right, get like dem dismantle this part of the offense pretty much.
I just don't think he's like, not that he's not good at basketball. Like, look, he puts 100 on, he puts 50 on my head. But like, I think the level that he is at as a player is like, I think if you give almost any G League player the amount of shots he's getting, they score as many points, if not more points than Bronny.
It's
And
fair.
also, I think the problem with Bronny is that if he was playing at his actual level, he wouldn't have been at USC in the first place. He would have been at a mid-major D1. Played 4 years there, and if his name wasn't LeBron James Jr., he's as talented as he is. He plays 4 years at a mid-major, and then he goes to a country like Spain to play in their third tier as a pro,
Mm.
not the NBA.
Yeah. No, yeah, I don't definitely don't disagree with you. I don't want you to think that like I'm a Bronny lover or anything like that. I want to see how this whole story pans out, like you said, where
Oh,
he ends up,
this
what happens to him.
disagree with me. That's part of the fun of sports is not people not having the same opinions.
For
Like
sure. Yeah.
if you do think Bronny's an NBA player, go for it. Like I always think that that's one of the most fun things in sports is that people can have different opinions, and at the end of the day, we're probably all wrong. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do see what you guys are saying, like both sides. I do want to see more from Bronny, and I do agree with you. I don't think he was NBA ready yet. I think that process was a little bit rushed for him, just because like with LeBron's timing of retiring and everything, and LeBron wanting to play with his son, that was one of his biggest goals. So I think that's ultimately why he got picked at where he got picked. But I did want to circle back to your coaching career because I did want to ask you a question. So, like, what did you have more fun with, coaching or playing basketball? Because I know those two are a little bit different from each other.
I'll say coaching because I was always like mentally and IQ wise, I was always good enough to play. Like, look, it's low level pro, but some low level pro. I stopped growing when I was 14 at 6'2", played the 4-5, and kind of even at the low level pro, still played like a 4-5 when I play, even the few minutes I played as a kid. And like I didn't really develop the skills because there was no amount of work that I could have done. It was too late in life for me ever to be good enough to play at the level that in a few years I think I'll be good enough to coach at. So it at least keeps me around at a higher level. Because I mean, I just didn't, to be fair, like sometimes you just don't have it in you as a player. Like when you are not not naturally incredibly athletic, you stop growing at 6'2", you got the Luca build, and it's there's no amount of work I could really put in, I think, to make it as a player. But I do think eventually, if I do choose so, like I could be a coach in our top league or in our second league. Whereas I don't know if I could have been. Probably in our second league, I could have been a player, but like I would have never made it in our top league as a player ever.
So you played the four and the five, you said, and like if I understood you correctly, like you felt like you kind of got stuck in that position.
Yeah, like I played on really small teams as well, which didn't help. Like my team, we won a national championship under 20s, and like I was our backup five, like I was like 16 at the time, but our starting five was 6'1".
Oh wow.
So we played against every team we played along the way. They had 6'2" two guards, and we just had a couple of us that were, for lack of a better word, had the Luca build that could hold our own against the bigger players. So we had to play the 4-5, and we just ran.
Yeah.
We would just kind of keep them out of the paint. Hopefully they missed shooting over us, and then every rebound ran. We won a cup. We won a couple of national championships out of it, but like not good for any of our development.
Yeah.
Like none of us made it at like senior back. None of us made it in like the top or second league in Ireland. But a lot of the guys that we would have been beaten at like 18, 19, 20, a lot of them did. Like a few of them
I,
ended up going playing pro. A lot of them ended up playing college ball in the States. But like we were just so focused on winning that we didn't really develop as players.
I find that like so interesting because like the other two guys that are missing, they both played just until high school. So they played in the States, it's varsity high school basketball, and then that's it. So that's the extent of what they got to. But they were definitely, I think, on one of their teams they were like the three or the four, and then Kevin, which is another one of our co-hosts, was 6'3" playing the five on a team where like everyone else was like you said 6'2", 6'1", and even 5'10". But I find that so interesting because like me as like a mostly a pickup player, I didn't even play high school ball, but I did play a lot with guys who did play high school ball, and like just naturally the way that my game developed was in those like being at the block, being down low, and like having to play one or two when I'm playing with guys that are way taller than me is very different. And I just think that's very interesting.
Yeah, like at the minute, like I'm playing real low level, like real low level ball, because like I tore my Achilles and I had a blood clot scare a couple of years ago, and like my lungs are in a bad way and I can't really move anymore. But like even though I can't move, you'd think, oh, I can't move at all. I'll be playing the four, five because of the level I'm playing the one now. I'm like limping up and
Oh,
down the floor playing the one,
yeah.
Oh,
like Mark Jackson style, backing people down full court when they try to press me.
Yeah. Well, and like for me, I'm learning like there's a lot of players that mimic like the Curry style where it's just constant movement around around the perimeter. I've never guarded someone like that. I'm used to one, two dribbles and then they're going up for something on me. Um so to have to chase that around was miserable for me for the last few years. But yeah, no, I just think that's really interesting that you also or that you felt like they definitely didn't make it the best situation for you to transition, like you said, to like a higher level.
No, but like that's not the way we were looking at it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like there was no, it's a bit different playing here. Like going and individually improving to get a college scholarship and going pro isn't the way anyone looks at things. Like you look at it as like you want to win a national cup when you're under 18s. You want to eventually play Super League or National League. Whatever way will help your team out. That's what you do. Like it's not as much individual development. And like, I never cared. Like I was happy out. Like I almost went to a prep school for a year, but like I kind of realized in like my final year of high school that I wasn't gonna. It was like I was gonna have to pay part of the tuition for the prep school. I think I had a good bit of it off, but it was like it's not worth going to America for a year, wasting a year of my life, and knowing that at best I was like a D3 guy.
Yeah. You'd probably get higher than that, in my opinion, but I do see where you're coming from. And the states specifically have gotten so much worse with that. No one cares that much about winning for the glory of winning. A lot of them are just trying to get drafted or trying to get to that higher level. So I'm sure that was a lot of fun winning a national championship under 18.
That is good, but like especially in America, I understand why it is like it is in America because of how expensive college is. Like if you don't get a scholarship, you could be paying 30 grand, 30K a year, whereas like college here is 3,000 euro a year.
Oh wow.
And
well,
that's the max it goes.
well, if that NIL money is life changing, as we have seen some people getting that, and some of those contracts are insane. Some people argue that it's kind of ruined college sports a little bit, but that's a whole nother like tangent and everything that we could get sidetracked off into. But one real quick question about you, and then we can get into NBA. I want to ask is, what is more important to you, your YouTube channel or like your coaching career? What do you value more into that?
Um, I mean, my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel has like bought me a house at 24 in Dublin, which isn't easy to do, and my YouTube channel is the reason like it's the reason I'm here. It's the reason I keep going. Like I only started getting into coaching because there was a team looking for a coach and well, a guy that I played with for like 5 years, like kind of from like 18 to 23. He was kind of older. He was like kind of a vet for my teams when I was young. He got a head coach job. And basically when he found out that after my injuries and my illness, I was basically done, he just reached out and was like, I need an assistant. Do you want to do it? So that was yeah, like if if you had to make me choose, I would rather never coach again than even give up one of my channels.
Okay.
Hmm. So even if which I hope it does, like and I don't know how much you want this, but I hope you can get to that highest level of coaching that you want to get to in Ireland. Um, even at that point, you think you would still basically, I don't want to say prioritize, but still like be content creating. Like you're going to be content creating for a while.
You are overestimating how much time it takes to coach in Irish basketball.
Okay.
Like the league is not fully professional, so teams can only train. Teams can't train during the day. So teams can train a max 3 times a week. Teams can practice a max of 3 times a week, and it's all outside of work hours because there is at least two players that are not full-time professionals on every team.
Yeah.
So you
Okay.
are giving up one day of a weekend and a couple of afternoons. So it's not like coaches aren't getting paid. They're actually not. I don't want to say coaches aren't getting paid full livable money because some are, but very few are.
Yeah.
Like a lot of coaches, you're getting paid on top of working a full-time job, and like the money is great as an extra, but like it's not. There's very, it's very, very hard to have make a good living out of coaching in Ireland. And like I've
I got you.
already made way more. I'm already like making way more money on YouTube than I would from coaching.
Wow, that's
So
very interesting. Like I had no idea that it was like that in Ireland.
yeah, it's
But
it's a tough one. Like if you want to make a living from coaching, you've got to coach high school. You've got to coach like elementary school early classes, basketball classes early in the day, basically being like a de facto PE teacher, and then you've got to coach the high school teams. Go straight from coaching like elementary school to coaching high school teams. Then you got to be coaching club teams for money. And then during the summer, you got to be coaching camps the whole time. Like you're all over the city. It's not a fun living making it in basketball, to be honest. Like a lot of coaches are things like they might be teachers in schools, but they'll get paid extra to coach the team and they'll get paid extra to coach club team on the side. Like they're doing okay, but like from just coaching, like it's hard to make a good living just playing in Ireland, to be honest. There is like the max salaries go to is like in my league that I coach in is like 2,500 a month plus rent, which isn't a lot of money at all.
yeah, we're gonna transition into some NBA news. So the NBA Cup will come to an end tonight with the remaining two teams being the Milwaukee Bucks and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Did you guys see this coming? Do you guys feel that this was the best teams that should be in the finals? And lastly, what does this mean for like the said teams if in the future if they win?
How much of the cup have you been watching? Do you like it?
I love the idea of the cup, but if the players don't care, I'm not going to care.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like the one thing that could have changed the NBA Cup was LeBron James taking it seriously last year. Or like even just if he came out and even gave like a quote, people were like, "Oh, these players wouldn't have celebrated these wins like Kobe and Jordan wouldn't have." I was like, "Man, both of them would have. Both of them would have come out and just been like, it's another thing to win. I'm going to win it to prove I'm the best." Like if LeBron had said something like if he had said something along the lines, it was like, it's another championship there to win. We're gonna win this, then we want to win the championship. It's like we want to win both every year. But like LeBron coming out this year and being like, well, who cares about the cup? I'm like, okay, so the cup's over. No one cares.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's a good point.
I mean, like they even put up a banner for the Lakers too. I thought it was ridiculous. I don't know what your thoughts were on that.
I mean, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of other sports, and even if you're looking in like in Spain and stuff, they'll have the Copa del Rey, um, for the ACB league in basketball, and in almost all the countries they have a cup, which is of almost as much importance as the league itself. And like it's a big prestigious thing. I think it's hard to get the players to care about it when the top players don't care about it. I was like, I like Adam Silver trying to do it, but it's not going to work because the players don't care.
Take a player like Anthony Edwards to come out and say like, I want to win it all this year, and then win it all. Because I've been adamant about saying I think that the NBA Cups is going to be like a curse. Like I think if you win the cup, you're not winning the championship. It'll be really interesting to see if when the first team, because you know it'll happen, but it'll be interesting to see when a team wins the NBA Cup and the championship in the same year and kind of break that curse.
I don't know
I
what
don't
your
think. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on this, but I feel like the energy for the cup from last year to this year is a little bit different. I felt like last year there was a lot more energy for it just because it was like new and everything. I don't know if that's what had to do with it, but this year it just seems like the energy for the cup isn't as extreme as it was last year.
Yeah, no, it's honestly though, I think it depends on the matchups. There's been some matchups that have actually been really entertaining to watch. Like I will say that.
I think that it's just the players stopped caring. And I hate to say this, but the players don't care more about this than winning or than anything else. And it's like, in fairness, like we all say a player needs to come out and say they want to win it. Giannis basically did that today and nobody cares. It has to be a certain type of player. Like we all know Giannis Antetokounmpo doesn't like he's a player that wants to win. But it's like it's gonna take a LeBron or a Steph to really push it because as great as Giannis is, he's not the face of the NBA. And the problem is that I don't think there's an individual player that's going to have the LeBron or Steph impact in what they say or do anymore because the NBA has done such a bad job of promoting their players.
I've said before that I think as much as I would like to see an 82 game NBA season, I do feel that that has some effect on why people aren't trying as hard in games like All-Star appearances or in this case the NBA Cup. What do you think is the reason that they're not trying enough?
You're making 50 million a year to play, and if you get hurt in the All-Star game, you are losing. Like if you're in a contract year and you tear your ACL in the All-Star game, you could cost yourself 50, 60 million minimum. Like imagine telling somebody to that they need to try. It's now at the stage it used to be players that were at the top would try really hard in a contract year to get a better contract. Now it seems like it's decided prior to your contract year whether or not you're getting a max. So those players instead of trying harder don't try at all. Like we're after seeing Zion get a max after a season where he didn't play basketball. We're seeing Embiid getting a max after a season where he lost the remainder of cartilage in his knee. It's gone back to the Gilbert Arenas contracts of the 2000s. Players are getting paid based on what they've done, not what they're going to do. So they're basically not even just the All-Star game. There's 82 games. We just can't get injured for these 82 games. All I have to do is survive them and I'm getting a max.
Yeah.
Like,
I love that. I love that basis because I've been very adamant. I think that is a huge thing. But how do we fix that? That's where always I like kind of end up my brain malfunctions because like you said, you can't tell someone to try when they're putting their livelihood at risk, basically. I mean, you shouldn't have to. I guess that's a whole other conversation in itself because like me personally, I can say all day that if I was making that much money, I'd play every single game and, be at every practice, but it's
You
probably a lot
wouldn't. Come
different.
on, don't lie to
No, I know.
yourself.
If I actually had that money, it'd be completely different.
the one thing I will say, I think it wouldn't be completely different with most people is if you had that money, you'd be in shape.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, and even whatever about the Luca stuff, because Luca, I don't know if Luca, like skinny Luca is not as good as well, not when he's injured, but skinny Luca is not as good as chubby Luca. Um, but like for Zion Williamson, that man is out every time he gets injured, he puts on 30 pounds,
Yeah.
and he gets injured every year.
Yeah, I mean
He's a huge issue.
that's an interesting case with him because he just got another hamstring injury, and they said that in 2 weeks he might be fine, and then they just reevaluated him, and I think he's not even anywhere close to where he's supposed to be. So
Yeah, and I can't believe he fired the best agent in the world.
yeah,
How long ago did that happen? I didn't actually see
Like
that.
3 weeks ago, maybe.
yeah, it was like
Okay.
around 2 3 weeks ago.
He fired the agent that after a rookie year he played 20 games. A second year, in his defense, was unbelievable in his second season and averaged 27 a game. In his third season, missed the entire season, and in his fourth season, played like 30 games. And somehow, his agent got him a 5 year max extension. And he fired the best agent in the league to get a guy who doesn't to get street close a max contract, and he fires them.
Yeah, I mean, so my question was going to be, do you think it's time for the Pelicans to move on from Zion? Yeah. I agree.
How dumb do you have to be to take Zion Williamson? I'm sorry, like he's got he's had 5 years and he has not been in shape once.
I
The
I said
Warriors were just in talks of maybe acquiring him or like having somewhat of an interest in him, which was interesting.
I personally said he needs to be a secondary option. He cannot be the star of a franchise and walk around that city as the franchise like star. He to me he needs a couple of years where he's going to be just as good as the superstar of that team. That's what we would expect. But I just personally feel like he has the best chance to do well in this league if he's not the number one guy that people are relying on, basically.
Like, why are we talking about Zion Williamson like he plays basketball though? Like, this is a completely different conversation if he played basketball.
Yeah.
Like, we can talk about where Zion fits, where he doesn't fit. And if Zion Williamson is healthy, the New Orleans Pelicans aren't even considering moving off him. He is a max contract guy that is good for 40 games a year.
Like you said, I think it just comes down to availability. Like if you're not available, you hold so significantly less value to a team.
But
Well,
it's
are
funny in in today's day and age, these players are still getting talked about in like big trade packages. Like I'm old enough to remember Brandon Roy, and Brandon Roy was as good, if not better, than a lot of these guys. And like even before his complete decline, he didn't have that much value because they were like, oh, his knees are gone, he's not going to be great. And maybe after the Gilbert Arenas contract, people were a little bit more like skeptical about giving injury-prone players contracts. But now we're looking again at Joel Embiid's knees don't work. He's got Greg Oden knees and he's getting a max. So anyone gets a max nowadays if you were good in the last couple of years.
That
it was funny last episode, or we talked a little bit about this, and our co-host Kevin was mentioned something that his money isn't fully guaranteed until January something. I can't remember the exact date. So he was saying like as long as the Pelicans don't cut him, his money is guaranteed. Do you think they should just cut him so they don't have to pay him?
The problem is if you cut him, you don't get anything back from him.
Hmm.
yeah.
Like like they can cut him whenever, I think, because of the weight clause.
Yep.
Like they can the guy is the guy might be the first player to ever get cut for being too heavy. Like he needs it's like 295 is weight in pounds plus body fat percentage. And if I was to guess, Zion Williamson is over 300 pounds and at about 20% body fat. Like he's not even close to his weight goal. So like the Pelicans can cut him whenever they want. The only reason they're not is because they still think they can get value from him.
But I wanted to shift back a little bit back to the NBA Cup, and I want to get your opinion on like who do you think is going to win tonight? Who do you got? Oklahoma City Thunder or the Milwaukee Bucks?
Giannis 50 bomb.
Giannis 50
Okay, so
pound.
and OKC win.
Okay.
Okay.
So what are your current like thoughts on the Milwaukee Bucks so far this season? Because they started off really terrible, and now they've been on a stretch of like just killing it. Do you think this is like a playoff team that could contend for the championship, or are you not bought in?
I don't think any team coached by Glenn is a contender, but I am they'll be fine. They'll make it as long as they don't play Miami in the first round or like Boston or they'll be fine in the first round and then they'll lose to probably Boston at some stage. Like they've no chance against Boston.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't think that they can stand the chance with like either the Cavs, Boston, another one. I think at best they can get to the second round, but their run so far has been kind of crazy because I did not expect them to get this far into the NBA Cup. I thought the Knicks were at least gonna do some damage to them, but that just
The
did not
Knicks.
happen.
Knicks.
How do you feel about
Now,
that whole Timberwolves Knicks mix up?
I actually thought the Timberwolves won the trade when it happened, but like I didn't think Julius Randle was going to be this bad on defense, and I didn't think Dante DiVincenzo was going to forget how to play basketball.
Do you think like time will heal all wounds and they'll get better, or do you think that it was just not a good trade?
Oh, I don't know. Like I think it comes down to Dante DiVincenzo, to be honest, because like
Mm.
Randall is what Randall is. Um, and I don't know if DiVincenzo, maybe he just had a fluke year in New York, to be honest.
I don't think it was a fluke here. I'm gonna be honest. I thought he had a good season. I just don't know what got into him this season. I don't know if he's not playing good because of his situation and he's upset that he's not in New York with those guys anymore. But I I I think he's a good player. I think he's a guy that can add value to the team. I just don't know what's up with him in Minnesota. And I don't know if because he had like shown frustrations with saying that he wants a starting role on an NBA team. And I think the Timberwolves are looking for trades for him. And I think the December 19th is when you can start trade players.
Yeah, the psychology of that situation would be interesting. Like DiVincenzo leaving New York and that city and that team and everything, and then having to play alongside the Timberwolves. Like I guess it is a big switch up, and I wonder how he's dealing with that. If he's just decided basically not to play basketball at such a high level. I doubt that's what it is, but um, I
I
don't
mean,
know.
you don't decide to just miss shots. He's just, I don't
Yeah,
know.
Mhm.
I really don't know.
big switch up.
But I mean, what have been your thoughts like on the Oklahoma City Thunder this year? Because they've looked amazing on every aspect.
They're like, I hate what they've done. I hate what they've done because they have done the 2K My League in real life. They've just stockpiled draft picks, traded draft picks for draft picks. You know the way if you're when you're playing My League in 2K where none of your rookies are busts and they all just start getting better and better and better. No matter
Mhm.
who they've drafted, they've all become like the 85, 86 overalls. They're that team when you play My League where you have a whole bunch of like you've won like 90 something overall, a bunch of like 85 to 90 overalls, a bunch of like 80 overalls on your bench, and then you still have a 10 draft picks. Like they're gonna have the Sixers top 10 pick this year as well.
Imagine they get Cooper Flag, dude. That would break the NBA.
But they spent 2 years and like they only sucked for 2 years. That's the worst part. They
Hmm.
just started trading picks for picks for picks for picks for picks. And then they realized the teams were dumb enough to give you two first round picks for like the 12th pick in a draft. You would give up a 12th pick and you could go and get two picks for that. And other
Hmm.
than Alperen Şengün, it benefited them every other time.
I
Yeah.
love this. I haven't really thought about how Oklahoma um has been good, like their front office and like just the way that they've attacked trying to make their team better is definitely in a good way. We're Bulls fans here. So we kind of I don't know. That just made me realize like oh because the Bulls have a lot of I think they had a lot of draft capital the last few years and they just basically did that with
Your
it.
your rookie has me blocked on Twitter, by the way.
Matas, why would you say to
Yeah, I don't know. I to this day do not know. The only thing I've ever tweeted about Matas Buzelis is that I said that I didn't think he was a top five pick.
him? Wow.
That's the only thing I've ever said about Buzelis. And I
Man.
don't think, like, at the time he blocked me, I hadn't said anything really bad in my videos. I stood by, like, even after he blocked me, like, I stood by my take that the idea of Matas was better than the player Matas. Like, this, like, oh, 6'10" wing with point guard skills who can shoot even though he could never shoot. They were like, oh, he's this shooter. And I'm like, based on what? He shoots 20% from three.
Hmm.
I think you got
He's a
that.
white dude. He's a white dude, so he can shoot.
I think you got the last laugh on that one because everybody in Chicago is getting traded soon.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people that are too safe on that team.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
but with the Thunder, man, I do you think Sam Presti was playing my league or what? Just like practicing until he can get all these draft picks? Because, dude, it is just insane what they have done. Like, do you have them winning the finals this year?
I think they're gonna make it and lose before they win.
Okay.
But like they're screwed in a couple of years because of the second apron and stuff. Like they're just gonna have to trade everyone in their role players
Hmm.
once they have to start paying Chet and J-Dub.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But like you don't realize as well. It's like, oh, you have to pay these guys. Like they have Nikola Topic, who was arguably the second best player in the draft last year, just rehabbing.
Hmm.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about that. They're in a dangerous spot because every single one of their players is just developing better, and they're not going to be able to keep up with that. They're going to have to get rid of some guys.
Yeah, and that's the problem with the modern NBA is that like with all the team rules, like a lot of people are talking about like even with being like, oh, there was no super teams back in the day. And it's like, yeah, because players were willing to go from like $5 million a year to $3 million a year because that was the equivalent of today going from $30 million a year to $10 million a year. Like no one's given up 20 million to become a role player. Like even for the 90s Bulls, Ron Harper left being a 20 point per game scorer for a bad Clippers team and went to Chicago, said, I'm not going to play offense. I'm going to average 5 points a game. I'm become best defender in the NBA. Like imagine if, I don't know, the Boston Celtics every single year were able to pick up a Mikal Bridges and he just decided, nah, I'm just not going to play offense. I'm just going to focus on being defense player of the year again. They never lose.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's like, and that's one of the like that's one of the things with all these teams now is that Oklahoma City have done everything through the draft, but it doesn't matter because you're not even going to be able to keep your players anymore because of the second apron.
I want to transition before we get too off the rails with that into the Miami Heat, and they're always looking to be a contender for the NBA championship. This season, they're looking to part ways with Jimmy Butler, and his preferred destination are the Rockets, Suns, and Mavericks. And the Miami Heat are looking to get win now players for Jimmy. Will Pat Riley finally decide to part ways and have Jimmy Butler traded before the deadline?
He kind of has to, doesn't he?
Hmm.
Otherwise, he's gone for nothing.
Jimmy's one of those guys that I feel like he's been in talks of trade rumors, and Pat Riley and the Heat have always just been saying that they want to trade these pieces or get these free agents or whatever, and they just have not been able to pull the trigger. So I genuinely don't know what they're thinking at this moment. But it seems like that Jimmy Butler's ready to move, and so are the Heat.
Yeah, I'm as a Heat fan, I'm not looking forward to it because Jimmy Butler is not one for having non-messy breakups.
Mm.
Like every single team he's left there's been noise. Like I'm waiting for his taking the third stringers in practice moment.
Yeah. He might what's the term? Empty the skeletons out of the closet or what however it goes. He definitely might do that as his last huzzah in Miami.
Oh yeah, I reckon he'll just start criticizing Pat Riley in mid press conference like.
That would be crazy.
Well, he's already started dyeing his hair. I don't know if you guys seen he's trolling the NBA media with dyeing his hair red, orange, and then blue for all of the teams that have said has been his preferred destination. So I mean, we're kind of seeing that right now.
What do you think is most likely? Where do you see him ending up if he does leave?
Brooklyn and not via trade. I think he ends up in Brooklyn next year.
Hmm.
I don't
Okay.
think there's a team that are going to give up anything for him, anything enough that Miami aren't just going to try run it. I think Miami are going to lose in the first round of the playoffs, and Jimmy Butler will be a Brooklyn net next year because they have the money to give him a max.
How do you think that will pan out?
I mean, the Heat are going to do what the Heat do. They're going to win 35 to 42 games and be a tough out in the playoffs.
If the Pat Riley and the Heat decide to trade him, do you think there's any mistake that people or any teams would be getting and inquiring him, or like do you think that he could be beneficial for some teams?
I think he'll be beneficial, but I don't think he's going to re-sign anywhere. I think he's gone at the end of the year no matter where he goes because nobody can afford to give him a max next year.
I wonder how many teams will be genuinely interested because the way that they had posed Jimmy being available is that he's a difference maker and that one of the big contending teams will pick him up and instantly shoot up the rankings and just as like a favorite to win it all. But
It's nearly impossible to trade for him though. Like he's on 50 mil a year, and there are a lot of the contending teams are hard capped unless the
yeah,
Thunder want to sign him. Like the
Mm.
Suns can only sign him if they trade Bradley Beal, and no one's taking Bradley Beal's contract. And Bradley Beal's just not going to accept the no trade clause. Where is it that he wants to go? The Mavs aren't going to trade for him. They need to give up too much. The
yeah.
Rockets don't. The Rockets said they weren't going to break up their core for Giannis. They're not going to do it for Jimmy.
Mhm.
And the Warriors, no, I don't think the Warriors have enough.
The Warriors will always say that they're gonna get someone. Who knows if it's true? But you did say that you like Miami. We never got a chance to ask you what's your favorite team? Who's your favorite player?
Oh, Miami. Favorite
Miami.
player
Okay.
is Luca prior to all his injuries and when he started walking up and down the floor. Young Luca was. Favorite player all time is Bars Liotta.
This was like bringing back to like an earlier point in the episode when we were talking about like players not trying during the regular season. And Jimmy Butler is one of those players that's known for like turning it up a level when it hits like April and into the playoffs. So I don't know how beneficial it would be for an acquiring him for like a regular season team right now. Or do you think that matters just getting him right now for playoffs?
I think people are, if you're signing Jimmy Butler, you know you're only signing him for the playoffs.
Hmm.
Like you're getting a half-assed effort for regular season. And I think it'll be more of an issue if he goes somewhere like Golden State because the only reason he's gotten away with it is because Miami, as much as they're a big market, no one really cares about what Miami do. Like their fans don't even show up most of the time till like the end of the first quarter.
Yeah, that's I've heard that about Miami fans, and it genuinely shocked me because I didn't know that was a thing. Have you ever made it out to Miami by chance to see a game?
No, I haven't. I've never been to Florida.
Have
Uh,
is there any NBA games that you have caught?
yeah, I used to go. I've been to four or five of the ones in Europe when they come over. I was there last year. Um, I think NBA Infinite paid for me to go out last year. Where else was I? I've been to New York a couple of times. Gone to see Knicks. Gone to see the Nets a few times. Was in Boston, see all the Celtics a few times back when like it was the big three Celtics. I'm trying to think, is that it? Yeah, pretty much.
Which one was your favorite game to catch? Or like what had the best atmosphere? What was the best city to be in?
Um, the best game I've ever been at was preseason in Madrid, Real Madrid versus the Toronto Raptors when Real Madrid beat the Raptors.
Oh wow.
So like anytime they go to Europe and the European team beats the NBA team, it's huge.
Yeah.
Which is
I'm
why
sure
they stopped play. They stopped playing those games because the European teams just kept beating the NBA teams. An NBA team not trying does not beat the EuroLeague team.
Sure, yeah.
we can touch on this. I don't know how much like you like the whole shift because there's definitely going to be more and more foreign players coming from Europe and coming from other places that are going to make the league look a little bit less restricted to just the states. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. The atmosphere over there for those games is just incredibly like cool. I would love to catch one of those games.
Yeah, like my basketball bucket list is like to go to the Red Star Partizan derby in Serbia or to go to Olympiacos Panathinaikos derby. They're the two when you ever see fans like going crazy with flares and everything. It's one of those
Yeah.
games. It's probably one of those two rivalry games, but like they're not safe if you're not there with a local. So it's like some of my Serbian friends, I'm like, if you're ever going to this game, let me know. I will go with you, but I'm scared to go there to just go to that game by myself.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
like
it's like
if you're a Red Star fan and you like if you're wearing even if you're not wearing a jersey, if you've come from like the Red Star section of the stadium and you take a wrong turn and there's a bunch of partisan fans, like not that you're not making it out there alive, but you're gonna be shook up before you'd make it out of there. Like
yeah.
Jeez. That
It's
that's
it's the it's
intense.
it's the football culture too. I mean, it's somewhere places are like that. But like specifically, like my parents are from Mexico, so they had a lot of I forget what the name of the Mexican soccer league is, but I'm sure you've heard or seen the videos, heard the things. Same way, it'll be two cities that are less than an hour from each other, and their people are just hateful towards each other. I mean, it's it's somewhat in good fun, but at the same time, like don't piss off a rivalry.
it doesn't matter what the sport is. Like America's too big to really have this because like state to state is like you could be a 10-hour drive.
Hmm.
But it's like if you I was in the Philippines last year and I was in some like tiny town. They had an outdoor basketball court with like bleachers, about 300 people watching. Like, this is the worst level of basketball you will ever see. Like these are adults from like the two areas and the local area. The whole place packed, going nuts.
Yeah.
Like as great a crowd as you're ever going to see. And this is like a standard that's the equivalent of middle school basketball. There were 6 foot tall bruiser centers shooting like Shaq, but it didn't matter how bad it was. All they wanted was their area against the other area. We need a win. And
Yeah.
I'm like the whole place packed. I'm like, this is crazy.
What was the final
But it,
score?
yeah, that's a great question.
I don't even remember. Like, I like stopped watching when I saw um the the bruiser Shaq shoot free throws with like one hand, like he was literally like 7 footer. The like 5'10" centers. No, no, they're back to the basket inside centers. They don't walk outside the key. And I'm like, you are 5'10". The guard's 5'1", sprinting around, and I'm like, this is mental.
Yeah.
It was like everyone was just a foot smaller. Everyone
Wow.
played as the way they normally would, but they were just a foot smaller.
I bet you anything though that those games are probably well, I don't know how entertaining that would be, but it's probably more entertaining than some of the crowds that we get over here. I mean, we have NBA games that are almost completely empty with some of the highest level basketball that you can witness.
Well, you can get into a Sixers game for like $1 now. I saw something crazy. So
It's the problem is the players, in my opinion, are almost too good.
mhm.
That it's just
Yeah.
an assumption they're going to score in almost every possession, or it's gonna be like a 3 point shot, and if it's not a 3 point shot, it's going in.
On that topic, I did want to ask because you mentioned kind of where I think you alluded to this that we're still in the superstar era of the NBA. I felt like in the last few years we're kind of starting to move away from that. Teams are starting to build with from within. Younger teams like the Rockets, OKC. How do you? I mean, do you think that we're going away from the superstar teams, or do you think they're still here?
Yeah, I think every single rule that Adam Silver has brought in has been to try eliminate like the super teams, which is awful for the NBA. Like the NBA is better when there are super teams.
Mhm.
And that's just the reality of the situation is like we have enough evidence to know that superstars and super teams build the league. Like we have enough evidence also to know that parity is the worst thing for the NBA. Like in the decade of the 70s, was it not like 10 different championship winners in the decade of the 70s or something, or 9 different winners? And it was the decade that almost destroyed the NBA. And now Adam Silver is trying to go back to the 70s.
You kind of honestly, I maybe I'm just a bad like podcast host. I haven't thought of that. So that to me is a little bit more eye-opening. Because my assumption is always that the more teams that are better, the better it is in the long run for the NBA. But you I definitely see where you're coming from. If you have five different champions like we have in the last 5 years, people start to not care as much.
If everyone's, for lack of a better word, if everyone's super, no one's super, to quote the Incredibles, like if there's no standout teams, then like it used to be, look, we all lived through 2016. You were going out of your way to watch the Warriors. When the Warriors played the Cavs, no matter what, you were going out of your way to see that team. When Miami had their big games, you were going out of your way to see them, even if it was to see them lose. The
Hmm.
KD Warriors, when they were playing, yeah, maybe you didn't watch the first or second round series in the playoffs, but you better believe you watched them play to watch them lose. Like if you heard they were down in the fourth quarter of a game, you'd tune in and be like, oh, they can lose.
Yeah.
Whereas now, anyone can beat anyone. Every single team is, other than the Washington Wizards, competent. And yeah, it's just there is no team that makes a casual fan say, I need to go see them play. And there hasn't been since Steph's Warriors.
I see your point a little bit with that, but one thing I think about is this Boston Celtics this year and how dominant they have been last year and not and this year as well. And just like I think their whole roster is just insane. Like they can play they have so many versatile lineups. So I mean I feel like they're a part of that super team category as well and a team that you would like to watch, but fans aren't really drawn to them. And I don't know if that's just because of the personality on the team with like Tatum and everything. But what are your thoughts on that?
They have so many good players. They don't have, I agree with that. They don't have somebody that is like a LeBron or Steph. It's just like, oh, Tatum's pretty good. And I think a big part of it is that if you go and watch the Celtics, there is a 50-50 chance that Tatum looks like he sucks.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then he might just turn it on. Like, as good as Tatum is, Tatum goes through 6 minute spells where he scores a bunch of points and then might struggle for a game. And then he might get carried through three quarters, the rest of the team killing it, and then Tatum will take over. Or Tatum will be great for three quarters, struggle in the fourth, and Jaylen Brown take over. Like it just they're just really good at they're just a really good team. I think they're one of the best teams ever. But it's a bit different. They're just they're just better than everyone else. And it's not like in a Golden State way where I know Golden State put up a lot of threes, but we have to admit they were more fun to watch.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. I saw kids in like at the time, like in middle school, high school, wearing Curry jerseys. I was like, wow, yeah, like the pool that the Warriors had back then was insane. Everybody had a Curry jersey.
Yeah, like
Hmm.
if you go to somewhere like the Philippines, which is probably the biggest like basketball fanatics in the world, they are obsessed with LeBron, Kobe, Jordan, Curry. They're like superstars. And for some reason, Tyler Hero, I don't know why. There's Tyler Hero jerseys everywhere. But I don't think you would see a single Jason Tatum related thing. If you anything Boston Celtics would be Larry Bird.
Yeah.
Like they just the casual fan has not gravitated towards Jason Tatum. The casual fan has not gravitated towards Jaylen Brown. As good as they are as players, just like to an extent, the casual fan hasn't gravitated towards Shea because he's just going to give you 30 a night. Like
Hmm.
so,
Yeah,
it's a tough one, especially because basketball's gone so analytic. The flair is being coached out of the players in order to just jack threes. It's why LaMelo is such a breath of fresh air this year when he's healthy because he doesn't give a he just will shoot anything.
Yeah.
yeah.
I saw a video like on that topic of Tatum when he was in the early part of his seasons and just the way that he's played then versus now. It's completely different. And you could say that it's for the best because he definitely works better within that offense. But yeah, he just has been the like you said, the flair that was in him a couple when he came in as a rookie has just been completely taken out.
I think the biggest issue is that the best way to win in basketball has been proven to be a style of play that is an eyesore.
You said an
Like Boston
ISO.
shoot more Boston shoot more threes than any team in the history of basketball. That is how you win. Like you don't win dumping it inside, you don't win like a Carmelo Anthony could never exist in today's NBA because that style doesn't work and they just will have that coached out of him. If Melo played in today's NBA, he's not spotting up on the elbow, he's shooting a three every time he touches it. It's just the style of play that is most efficient is shooting threes because it means teams have to guard you, which means if you get one step by them, it's a guaranteed bucket. So it's the flaw of analytics. Like they need to make the court smaller.
Hmm. Yeah. That's interesting. Is that like a real like suggestion that you think would help?
Yeah, it's the reason why court smaller and no defensive 3 seconds. Court smaller allows you to help easier. It allows you to like um uh, contest the corner three easier. The no defensive 3 seconds means shot blockers are shot blockers. Like we saw it in FIBA rules. It was like more like real basketball because there's no rules. Like the defensive 3 second rule was basically brought in to stop stop people camping in the key in the 90s and allow people to go in and dunk. But now there's no need for that rule because all centers can shoot. So you're not just having somebody sitting in there blocking shots. And then the court smaller just it means the spacing's not as much of a factor. Like people say move the 3 point line back, but that actually makes the problem worse because that means players are even further back, which means they're even further away from the basket. So there's less help defense, and every single time is just a three, or you have to keep shooting the threes to bring them out, and then you just burn them and dunk. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's one of my least favorite suggestions is the getting a 4 point shot or moving the 3 point line back. I absolutely get frustrated when people bring that up as a suggestion because at that point the NBA turns into like a trick shot channel or a trick shot like entertainment show, and I do not want to watch that. I could watch Dude Perfect instead.
If the 4 point line ever comes in, you better believe nobody will ever shoot a 3 pointer again.
Uh,
Like, you know, the way people are like, the mid range game is gone? If the 4 point shot comes in, the 3 pointer will never be shot again. Because why would you not just shoot a 4 pointer for an extra point? Like, the players will learn to shoot the 4 pointer.
Yeah. I think that's probably like a big thing that happened within NBA like training camps and things like that, which is just players being allowed to practice things more. Like I doubt 10, 15 years ago players were allowed to practice as many threes as they are getting, as many reps as they're getting in now. So if there's a 4 point ability, you better believe they'll be drilling that too.
Yeah, and like, there's a lot of things as well in hindsight that are just so dumb looking back on. Like, have you ever seen the compilation of Kevin Garnett shooting with his foot on the 3 point line?
I have not.
I don't think I have seen that. I'll look it up
There
after
is
this after this
there was
podcast
like a
though.
10-minute compilation of Kevin Garnett shooting 2 point shots from like this much inside the 3 point line. And everyone
Yeah.
was like, imagine how many points Kevin Garnett would have if his coach allowed him to take one step back.
Yeah.
And we've all shot the ball. It makes no taking one step in doesn't affect anything. And it's
Mhm.
like a lot of the old stuff, a lot of the long two era is just dumb shots. Like players shooting from a foot inside the 3 point line, you're like, that's just dumb. Like
Yeah.
whatever about like the pull ups and the elbow stuff, people saying that needs to come into the game. Like those long twos never needed to be in basketball.
Hmm.
Like that was just dumb coaching. And we have
Yeah,
less
Yeah.
dumb coaching as well.
that's probably like one of the worst shots you can take as a player is just those like long twos that are almost a three but aren't.
They
I
loved them in the 90s.
Yeah, I think one of my coaches in high school called it basically a turnover, just because I mean you better chance at shooting a three and hoping that goes in instead of just getting a 2 pointer for like almost the same distance. But
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of those shots, like I saw like a shot chart and it was like there were as many corner long twos as long threes in the 19 or as corner threes in the 99 2000 season. I'm like, you took the least efficient shot in basketball instead of the most efficient shot in basketball for no reason.
That's crazy. I didn't know that statistic. That's actually really like cool to know
Yeah.
now.
Like I saw the graphic today. I don't know where I found it. And I was looking on YouTube for the Kevin Garnett long twos compilation. I can't find it. It must have been on Twitter, just coming across my timeline. But like,
yeah, we'll try to put that in if we can end up finding it on the episode.
it's funny though with analytics. Like initially, analytics was just so many things we take for granted now. Like let's stop shooting long twos, let's start shooting threes, and let's pick up the pace because if we can outscore the other team like D'Antoni, like when analytics were primitive, it was all stuff that's obvious now, but like were all things that made the game better. But we've gone so far into like never shoot the mid range.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
like on the topic of compilations, the ones that I've been seeing that have been pissing like most NBA fans is the compilation of the Warriors like screened Curry or like screened for Curry, and then he just basically takes the shot at the top. Like, and it's obviously it's like one of the most basic plays in basketball, but it gets used everywhere on the court and by every single team now. And to the point where it's just like, I don't know, it seems like such a regular part of their offense is just to try to get that shot, try to get a specific shot.
Yeah, like they are. I always don't count the Warriors a lot of the time in the 3 point bad thing just because of how their ball movement is. There's not nearly as much run up and shoot a bad shot from the Warriors unless it's Steph Curry as other teams.
Mhm.
Um, but it is just with everything now, it's so hard to defend it because if you defend too close on someone, they burn you and it's a layup because you can't help anywhere. And
Sure.
like, and even if you have non-shooters like Dallas, if you help in, Luka just throws the ball up in the air and Lively or Gafford dunk it.
Mick, it's been a pleasure talking to you today, man. Thank you for coming on. And we're gonna wrap it up. If you want to shout out your channel,
Yeah, you can find me at Mick Hoops if you're into the NBA stuff. If you happen to be interested in WNBA stuff, you can find me under Mick Talks Hoops. And if I ever post 2K again, you can find that on DBG.
all right. Thank you again for coming on.
No problem at all. Thank you guys for having me on.
And GMLB family, thank you again for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe and hit us at our email at gmlbfans@gmail.com. And we'll see you guys next week. Peace.